To me, going into this year's Breeders' Cup, the Sprint was arguably the best race on paper. Might not have been the largest field, might not have been the race that you were most likely to win boatloads of cash. But I thought top to bottom, quality-wise, it was the best and perhaps would provide the best race and the best efforts. Here's the field. Only 9 of them signed on. And really, of the 9, no disrespect to the horses that ran 6, 7, 8, 9, it felt like there were 5 horses, and you could make your case for any one of the 5, whether it was Promises Fulfilled, Imperial Hint, Limousine Liberal, Roy H., Whitmore. You could make legitimate cases for any one of the 5. Ultimately, kind of a one-horse race. Here's the stretch run of the Sprint.
Roy H. has circled up to take the lead at the top of the stretch. Right by Promises Fulfilled. Imperial Hint is trying to close on the outside. Then Distinctive B. Whitmore is making progress. Here he comes splitting horses. Roy H. has got a big lead though. At the 16th pole, he's 4 in front. Whitmore closes the gap into second as they come to the line. Roy H. does it again. He won it by 4 lengths under Paco Lopez.
Roy H. repeats as champion of the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and I would imagine very likely puts himself in great position to repeat as champion sprinter. He gets the job done as the second choice at odds of 5-2. Whitmore runs a very, very strong effort, a strong second at 6-1. Imperial Hint rounds out your trifecta as the beaten 8-5 favorite. Promises Fulfilled runs 4th at odds of 9-2. Let's talk about Roy H. a little bit more, shall we? He is rock solid. He's 6 years old. At this point in his career, he just shows up and runs his race more often than not. Now, I wasn't convinced he was in the best form coming into this, but boy, he proved me wrong. He's 9 of 22 lifetime, 7 other times in the money, over $3 million in career earnings, owned by Rockingham Ranch and David A. Burnson, LLC, trained by Peter Miller, bred by Ramona S. Bass, LLC, in Kentucky, ridden to victory by Paco Lopez. You can see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. He's by more than ready out of an elusive quality mare named Elusive Diva. From a speed figure standpoint, this was the good Roy H. 111 buyer, 128 time form U.S. rating in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Whitmore running second, a 104 buyer and a 119 time form U.S. rating. And Imperial Hint, a 118 time form U.S. rating and a 99 buyer speed figure. Other interesting numbers to throw out there with Promises Fulfilled, given these numbers that I'm giving you from a time form standpoint are pace incorporated or pace is factored in. Promises Fulfilled actually earned the second highest number in the race with the 122, only a 98 buyer because the buyers are strictly from the final clocking. For what it's worth, the fractions 21, 35, 44, 21, and the final time of 108.24. Roy H. never looked like a loser at any point. He was out in the clear. He cruised. Paco set him down, and he finished like a house of fire. This was really, really an impressive effort from Roy H. Again, back to his best form, I think, from 2017, and I wasn't totally convinced that we were going to get that coming in here. You knew his best was going to be pretty darn tough to beat, and that's exactly what you got. Imperial Hint, the third-place finisher, I was concerned coming into it that he didn't get enough fitness out of the Vosburg, which was his prep coming into the Sprint. Many people continued to point to the Churchill Downs factor. I suppose, I guess it depends how you want to look at it. I don't think he ran poorly. It certainly wasn't his best effort. It seems like most people, including his trainer, Louis Carvajal Jr., they have concerns about the racetrack, and they think that Churchill Downs is the reasoning. The quote from Carvajal afterward, I had my doubts about Churchill Downs coming in while hoping the first 2 races here were about the distance more than the track. But it's obvious now he just doesn't like this track. Javier said he just didn't handle it. It's going to be interesting to see what we get from Roy H. and Imperial Hint. Roy H. is going back to California. Imperial Hint is going down to Tampa Bay Downs. They're both possibly being pointed to the Dubai Golden Shaheen out at Meydan. That will be coming up at the end of March. So I'm sure you would have races leading into that if that is where they end up going, but it's worth noting that is where the potential target is for them early on in the campaign. Whitmore, the runner-up, a little bit unfortunate that he got out of the gate as slowly as he did. You'd like to think if he's a little bit more forward, I don't think it's enough to make up the 3 1/4 length difference between he and Roy H., but perhaps he just narrows the gap a little bit. He came with a nice run. I thought Ricardo Santana gave him a very, very nice ride. Inside, tipped out, angled back down to the rail, tipped back out again. It was one of those things, and again, I realize that it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts there, and again, the shortest distance between points is 2 points is a straight line, but at the same point, I feel like there's a scenario where that was as good as Santana could have ridden this horse and gave him every opportunity. And again, he just wasn't as good as Roy H on this given day. He will be going down to Oaklawn Park, and the first primary goal for them and these connections with Ron Moquette in 2019 is the Grade 3 Count Fleet down there. And again, we know he has an affinity for that racetrack. Promises fulfilled, showed big speed. This has been a relatively long campaign for him. If you think back to the early on the Triple Crown Trail, trying to get to the Derby, he ran in the Derby, ran in a few different races. The Woody Stevens went up to Saratoga and blitzed those races. And then he had a very tough race down at Keeneland most recently in that Phoenix. Clearly, the Phoenix form did not hold up awesome here, but at the same time, it wasn't terrible because Whitmore came out of that race as well. Limousine Liberal was a complete no-show. He never looked like he had any chance, which again, just I thought he was interesting at a price. He went off at a fair-ish price. I thought he was going to be closer to 6-1, but he just never looked like he had any chance in there. And I had said on the NBC broadcast that, and I think I had said it in the stakes preview for this race as well. Realistically, if Roy H and Imperial Hint showed up with their A games, Limousine Liberal probably wouldn't be good enough to get it done. But I didn't expect him to just be completely flat like this. He just never looked like he was comfortable. And I don't want to say comfortable. He just never ran. Disappointing effort there. Promises fulfilled. You know that there are probably bigger and better things going forward if he comes back as a 4-year-old. Haven't read anything one way or the other. But the top three, it all sounds like next year they're going to be coming back. And if you knock on wood and hope that they all stay healthy, could you imagine a third showdown between Roy H and Imperial Hint and then throw Whitmore into the mix as well out at Santa Anita? Oh, it would be fantastic. This division has sneaky been pretty solid over the past couple of years. It may not get the giant headlines that the classics get or the older horses or the filly division or whatever else it may be. This division haven't had a lot of fresh faces, but boy, the ones that have been around, they've been pretty strong. Roy H repeats as Breeders' Cup Sprint champion and perhaps is going to repeat as an Eclipse champion for Sprinter for the males. He gets the job done in the 2018 Sprint with a 128 time form US rating and a 111 Beyer speed figure.